Hi, good morning. Welcome to Coffee and Conversations. I'm here with Nobu, founder and CEO of Astroscale.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for being with us this morning.
It's a great honor for me to be here.
Really a pleasure.
Yeah.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of things, can you tell me a bit more about what Astroscale really does and what you've been doing for the last 2 years?
Astroscale is a company to remove the space debris. So have you ever heard of space debris?
Briefly, yeah.
Yeah. It's a garbage in space. And over the last 70 years, people had a development in space, and we actually littered various garbages into space. They are made of three things. One is old satellites which finished their missions, and second is rocket upper bodies. So rocket first stage go down to the ocean, but their upper stage is remaining in space. Mm-hmm. The third one is fragments caused by explosion, collision of these objects. So these are, there are not millions of the objects are flying in space. So we clean up them. In short, the density of the space debris has reached to the critical level where potential chain reaction of a collision can happen in any near future.
So with this at a critical level right now, what is the approach you're taking, on one hand, to convince space agencies, private and governmental, to remove this debris? It should be a shared cost. Is there a value add to have space debris removed?
The reason is this space debris issue is made of three kind of complex issues. Number one is technology. It's very complicated. And number two is a business model. Who pays money, as you said. Mm-hmm. Number three is regulations. And so I found these issues 6 years ago, and I found various space agencies, academia had initiatives to tackle these issues, but nobody had a clue because we have to solve technology, business model, regulation simultaneously. Otherwise, we cannot solve this issue. So then I felt like, it's a big issue. It's worth tackling. Mm-hmm. And so far, governments, space agencies are having initiatives, but they cannot solve this because their discussion is getting more and more political. Mm-hmm. And so I thought there's a way commercial company can solve this. So number one, we should not add more debris. That's number one. The number two is we should reduce the existing debris. So that's number two. So let's talk about, let's start from the, don't add any more debris. Going forward, most of the debris will come from many satellites because nowadays more and more private companies are joining the space industry, that they are launching hundreds or thousands of satellites.
It's becoming a lot more accessible price-wise as well.
Right, that's right. And there's a company group called Large Constellations. Those companies will launch thousands of satellites together to cover the sphere. And we know some percentage of their satellites will go defunct, go anomaly in space. So then they have to replenish with the new satellites to keep the coverage. To do that, they have to remove the old satellites. So that's our job. So we found this business opportunity, and we are talking with constellation players. So they need to maintain their orbit, and to do that, they have to. Once they suddenly go defunct, we have to remove them. We are in the future, existing debris. There are more than 23,000 large objects.
When you say large, what are we talking about?
Large is a kind of a 5 meter, 10 meter, the mass-wise 3 ton, 5 ton.
Okay, big.
Like a double-decker bus in Singapore. Okay. These are flying with 7 kilometers per second. Once you go up the space, there are so many lights, moon, stars, sun, Earth, and you have to identify which light is our target debris. Mm-hmm. And we have to approach the target. And imagine if you want to sit behind the bullet, it's very hard, right? And a bullet is flying. Mm-hmm. And actually the debris is much faster than the bullet. And we have to just,
intercept it at the right speed.
Light speed, yeah. And then bullet is, the attitude is quite stable, right? But actually debris, space debris is tumbling. How do you going to capture them, right? And so actually our satellite will synchronize motion and make relative rotation rate to 0, and then capture and stabilize and bring them down to the atmosphere and burn. These technology did not exist, and we developed them one by one and combine into the one system and make it smaller, cheaper, and we are going to have the world first demonstration early next year. So our team are quite busy for the final testing right now, but I'm sure we will do it.
To get back to the btcn, with a variety of governments having sent debris into space by now, who would be the ones that would contract you to remove this debris? Would it be the ones that put it there in the first place? Is it possible to know which debris belonged to which part of what?
Regarding B2G, of course, government, it's not easy for government to, as you said, justify the taxpayers why we have to remove the objects in space. And but space debris issue, one of the biggest issue of space debris was there was a lack of awareness among the generic public. People knows about the global warming, but people didn't know anything about
It
space
also
debris.
seems like a very large surface area, and it's hard to imagine
How
how many are there and how it's to visualize. Really.
Yeah, it's hard to
It's like
visualize.
if there are that many, why don't we see them?
But thanks to the movie Gravity and also more public outreach by the some people, space debris issue is getting more and more aware by generic public nowadays, and the political priority it has been going up. So last year, for example, United Nations issued Space Policy Directive 3, and it mentions that space debris removal should be an option for space sustainability. And it's clearly mentioned that Japanese government also addressed the importance of space debris removal. Europe, ESA, also initiated space debris removal projects last year. So I think the momentum from the government have drastically kind of become better compared to the 2 years ago.
Well, thank you so much for the insight. It's been very valuable. Thank you all for watching. Nobu, it was a pleasure. We hope to see
It's
you
my
again.
pleasure. Thank you very much. See you again.
Thank you.